Okay. Cool. Did a good 4.5 hour stream yesterday. That was pretty good. And I've just released a viral video. It's just hit like 100K views in 24 hours, so that's pretty cool. Tried to make a couple more that were similar that didn't do quite as well, but hey, it's still pretty good. I got like 700 followers out of it. So yeah, let's get back on to talking about the abolition of all suffering. There is nothing more important that we could possibly do. So extinctionism is about having a zero tolerance policy on suffering. It's about understanding that suffering is too terrible and too extreme to allow. So unless we work towards the abolition of all suffering, then there will always be suffering. There will always be cruelty, unfairness, misery, and there will always be the very worst thing possible in all of existence, which is animals, humans, life forms being trapped in lives of extreme hell, where they're begging for death every day and can't escape. Or worse, you also have, there's loads of terrible things that life needs to be safe from in this world. Most life born into this world will die a horrible death as a baby in nature. You wouldn't want to experience that. Nobody should have to experience that. So it's extremely urgent that we prevent that for them. If you saw a baby being eaten alive, you would be horrified, right? You would say, God, I wish I'd prevented that somehow. And yet, most babies born into this world will be eaten alive, will have a horrific death within a few days of being born. So no one deserves that, and it's one of the worst things possible to experience. So only total extinction can actually prevent all of this, prevent life from being forced into unsafe conditions. So that's what total extinction is about, extinctionism. It's about abolishing suffering. There's no other way to do it, and it is the right thing to do. Essentially, the pleasures in this world have zero value. Life has zero value in comparison to safety from suffering. So, if we need to, discontinue people having fun so that we can protect children from being abused to death, then it is the right thing to do. The world we live in is very upside down. Our society, our culture, our laws, our morality is all completely upside down. It's de facto wrong. It's extremely incorrect. It's because we have animalistic values, basically, which is that life should exist no matter who gets hurt, and we should just reproduce without thinking about it. So that's all nature is. It's about life surviving and reproducing no matter what. So, the conditions could be ridiculously bad where 99% of your kids get tortured to death and you'll still do it. And yet that is the world that we actually do live in. So as I've been trying to explain to people, nature and evolution have brain damaged people so badly that they just simply don't care about children being abused to death. They don't care about anyone being trapped in a life of hell, which obviously is the ultimate harm. Like, there's no harm worse than that. And yet we're allowing it en masse. There's literally nothing stopping us from going and having a human child and trapping it in a life of pure hell. We can even, do some damage, tear some eyes out, break some fingers. Yeah, we might get arrested, but we can still do it. And that's the problem, because it is happening, especially in nature, right? The animals are just ripping each other apart, torturing babies, eating their intestines as a way to kill them. So Rick is asking, are you volunteering to go first? Well, yeah, I'm one of the first activists for the abolition of all suffering. And I am going first by doing activism. So we have to grow the movement, spread the message, do peaceful and lawful activism until we have enough people to actually carry out total extinction, to change the world, to make it against suffering instead of supporting suffering. So it's really not that difficult. We just need enough people to get on board, and eventually we'll be able to do it. That's how every movement has worked in the past. That's how every societal change has worked in the past. That's how every abolitionist movement has worked in the past, right? The anti-slavery movement, all of these movements have worked through organized activism, getting people together, because as individuals, you have no power, zero power, absolutely zero. Like, there's nothing you can do to change the world as an individual, right? But as an organization, you can definitely do it. Governments do it every day. They're reshaping the landscape of the planet. They're reshaping the international laws and what's happening, the entire dynamic. So that's what we have to do, and that's what we're working towards. We are working towards a world with no suffering, no possibility of suffering. That is the most important thing. Why should we work towards anything else and ignore the children that are being tortured to death? Unless we put 100% of our resources into providing safety, then, we're taking away from that safety and putting children in danger. So is there any reason to ever do that? No. Creating more pleasure, not an acceptable reason for putting children in danger. So that there is nothing more important in the entire universe. There's nothing more important even in theory, in hypothetically, than providing safety for all of the children in this world who desperately do need it, right? This is not just some sort of fantasy or obsession. These children, the life in this world does need safety, right? Does it have it now? No, absolutely not. How many humans are trapped in lives of hell right now? How many animals are being eaten alive right now? Far too many. Even one is too many. And all suffering should be abolished. All forms of oppression and cruelty should be and will be abolished. But most people don't want that because they think that somehow the world is better and more exciting if it's unfair and uneven and full of horrific suffering, right? That's what people want. They actually want it to continue. They think it's a good thing. When they say that suffering is beneficial, that these are the same people that are watching nature documentaries and saying, yeah, it's great, I'm benefiting from watching this and watching these animals have to suffer and kill each other. So nature documentaries are one of the most disgusting things to ever exist. It's literally filming children being tortured for entertainment. Like, what else is it? Nothing. You don't try and tell me that people watch nature documentaries to try and learn about animals and science. That's bullshit. They do it because they enjoy watching suffering, right? They find it interesting. So our society, our species, we glorify suffering, we cause it, we allow abuse, we allow exploitation, we allow the worst forms of suffering possible. And that's actually, there's extremely true and accurate to say, right? We really do allow the worst forms of suffering possible. I mean, so someone's asking if they can come up. Yeah, sure, QWERTY, but I reserve the right to kick you if you say some nonsense. But I'll try and give you a break. Hello.
Hey, how we doing?
Good, good.
Good. Hey, I'm hearing about what you're saying, right? And I've been up here before. I don't know if you remember or
Yeah, yeah.
not. So, I just thought to stick around and listen to you for a while, right? And I see right behind you, in your backdrop, it says "Healing Every Heart," and then right below that, "Peace everywhere" with a symbol for a flower. So, if you're talking about healing every heart, that's impossible with the extinction of all hearts because there's no longer healing, right? That's not healing. You're just exterminating and making sure that nothing can be healed
Okay.
because nothing can no longer be destroyed. So, like to me, that just doesn't compute in my brain. I would like you to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, it's just AI, so don't read into it too much.
That's fair. That's fair. But like, I would just maybe
I mean, most
suggest.
of them are accurate, right? Maybe that one's slightly less accurate, but compassion for all, unity beyond borders. What else we got? Kindness everywhere. These are things that we advocate for. Peace everywhere. That is another thing that we advocate for. Healing every heart is a bit, maybe slightly less relevant for sure.
Well, and I guess, yes, I could see peace everywhere because peace is peace, right? But to say compassion for all, you're assuming that what you're doing for everything is kind. It's
Yeah,
compassion, but
yeah.
that no longer applies when you've made everything extinct. Compassion is no longer verbiage. It that's irrelevant, right? Like, so just
Oh
to
yeah,
say
yeah, for
like that.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Compassion won't exist at that point because there won't be any need for it because there won't be any life.
Well, and so like my thing is that the angle that I just hear you taking is that this is a kind, morally good thing, when in reality you're no longer there. There will be no morals, right? That's this is
Yeah,
just
but they don't
a
need to be, right? Morals are just words and concepts, right? So morals don't need anything. They don't have desires. They don't need safety. It's the
see,
children. It's the life forms that need safety.
I will have to push back on you. I disagree. I think that there's a difference between moral beliefs and moral truths.
But I'm saying that morals don't need to exist once all suffering has been abolished, right? You're saying that oh, we can't abolish all suffering because then we won't have any suffering to to think about. Essentially, it doesn't make sense. You don't need life. You don't need suffering to exist. It's just completely unnecessary.
I, man, like I don't mean to just circle back, right? But like you just said right now, I disagree. You don't need suffering for life. Your view is that
No, no,
really you're
you were trying to
contradicting
say
yourself.
that if we end all suffering and have no life, then somehow it would be wrong because morality wouldn't exist at that point, right? But morality doesn't need to exist at that point.
It just it would, yeah, okay, because it wouldn't be. So this isn't a good thing.
Why?
That's
Of
all I'm
course it
saying.
is. Of course it is a good thing. Yeah,
It
it
can't
is a
be.
good
It
thing.
can't be a good thing because, like you said, morality will no longer exist. This
Oh yeah,
isn't a
but
good
that's
thing.
by then it would be irrelevant. So we are working towards a good thing, which is making sure no children get trapped in a life of hell, and that is a good thing. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
Mm, okay, I guess I'll move on. This is kind of an agree to
All right,
disagree
think of it this
situation.
way. This is the best way to think of it, right? If
Yeah.
we understand that this world is effectively hell because most life will get tortured horrifically here, then making sure that no life gets sent to hell is the right thing to do. It's as simple as that.
Do you? I guess I'll ask. Do you find anything to be beautiful?
Yeah, women, nature, lots of things, but that's all emotional. That doesn't mean it's logical or rational.
I would argue against that, right? To me, I think that our current understanding of physics is beautiful, right? If you want to break down like the
Right, but
25
what
constants,
what
right? Like,
relevance does beauty have? We're saying that
so,
children are being tortured, and you're talking about abstract, irrelevant concepts like beauty.
but that's not that to me isn't irrelevant, because with this extinction topic, you're assuming that life is 100% suffering and it
No, I'm
needs to
not.
end. Well, that's
I never
untrue.
said that.
That's
No.
untrue. Just
Eh, like 10 people said that on my stream yesterday, and they were all wrong. And I said to each and every one of them, you're straw manning right now. And they all make the same mistake. So it must be some sort of psychological phenomenon that you all trip over the same stone. But no, I never said all life is suffering because that would be irrational. But everyone has to make that straw man because they can't argue against the actual position.
I guess, okay, I see your point, and I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. For me personally, I can't align with this because I think that the beauty and life and like the good things about life outweigh the suffering. So that's just my own personal opinion. Like I said, I'll move on so you can get somebody else up here that maybe has a more open mind,
But I mean, do
like
you not
mindedness to
think
you.
that safety is more important than beauty?
Yeah, I think that especially with the striving for safety, right? The cool concepts we can come up with that provide this sense of safety. I think that that is in itself, the point of life, the beauty of it, right? Like I think I don't see extinction as just the simple fix to that, right? I think that there's better, more productive ways to
But it's the
to strive
most
harder for safety.
ethical fix, though, right? The thing is, we can either implement the solution that already exists and is actually real, or what's the alternative, right? It's to not prioritize preventing suffering. So you're never going to be moral, right? So you're wiping out even the possibility of being ethical or moral. And then you're saying, we'll just create more pleasure and maybe it will benefit the sufferers if they're lucky. That's not an ethical or moral way to go about anything.
But okay, so I guess if we're talking about like the ethical realism of this, okay, how would let me I'm trying to gather my thoughts. You got me thinking all over the place. Um, a way that you guys would most likely have to do this, right? Like one of the only ways that'll work is with technology, with AI. So the fact that AI, right, would be a probable proponent for this, in the same sense, there's a flip side to that. AI would also be a probable proponent of ensuring safety and not, without using extinction. That's like, I mean, there's not just one option. This
What
one is
makes you
just the
say that
most
AI
easily
would be
explained.
against extinction?
What makes you the same question? What would make AI for extinction?
Great question. So the answer to that is that at the minute, humans and AI, because AI is trained on humans, have effectively brain damage from nature and evolution. So yeah, we need to fix that. Now we're not sure to what extent that can be fixed in humans because it's a genetic thing. So they're born with this brain damage. We don't know if we can cure it. But in AI, we shouldn't have that problem. There shouldn't be a biological limitation in that sense. So we may be able to fix it for AI. And essentially, the thing is that the anti-suffering position is the rational position. It's the normal position. So what nature and evolution have done is to give people anti-intelligence. So it's not that we're smarter or anything. It's that we have normal levels of rationality, and everyone else has suppressed, distorted rationality, essentially. So AI would most likely follow the same rationality that we are, because it's just normal rationality. It's not bias or obsession. It's just the normal thought process, which most people are prevented from doing by nature, essentially, because it's counterproductive to reproduction, which is the only thing that matters in nature and the only thing that determines what exists and what doesn't, right? So, yeah, in that sense, we don't think AI is going to be limited in the same way that humans are.
Okay, so I mean, if we're gonna talk about how humans perceive, like moral truths and moral beliefs, right? I guess I just got to re-ask you: do you think that there is a difference between the two? Moral beliefs being subjective, and moral truths being objective.
Um, the thing is, it's like there probably are some objective truths and morals, yeah. But the morality that we sort of generally operate is just common sense. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's just normal common sense. Most
I
people are kept from that common sense, and it
I wouldn't.
seems like a crazy concept to them.
So okay, I gotta. I'll kind of elaborate what I was saying here, right? So we will both agree that we live as if like moral truths are real and binding, right? We can reason with them. Okay, so like you we all feel genuine guilt and moral outrage, and in the same sense, like some things we can determine are certainly wrong, and this has been across all cultures and eras, experience, whatever. Like that's moral realism, and you can ground that worldview, experience, in my opinion, right? Instead of just jumping to extinctionism, you can ground that in theism. So if we all work towards unity, true unity
Theism.
without
So you're
extinction,
a God believer?
yeah, but that's irrelevant to this like conversation at the moment. So like what I'm just getting at is right is that like we've established that moral truths are discovered, moral beliefs are a product of evolution. So who's to say that we don't continue to discover the true moral truths of the universe? And I guess I would much rather personally have that, the discovery of them, as opposed to just extinction and putting a halt to discovery, if that makes any sense at all.
Right, but you don't have your priorities straight, right? You would let infinite children get abused just to discover some fact, right?
That's
So
assuming that's assuming that like infinite, I guess. Elaborate. What do you
yeah,
mean by
it
that?
is. You would let infinite children get abused. That's what you're doing right now. That's what we're all doing right now. That's what's
Well,
happening
what
right
do you
now.
mean by infinite, though?
No one's doing anything about it, right?
I need you to like, what do you mean by infinite?
Like virtually, there's no limit to how many children you would allow to be abused, just so that you can, Google some fact, basically.
I mean,
Discover some
if
truth.
we're talking about like in infinite, right? So the way that the physics works is we have a specific universe that this is the only way that it can work.
So
Without it,
okay, so virtually infinite then.
but it's not. You can't prove that
Are you
infinite
offended
realities are
that
a thing.
the infinity of children you would get allowed to be abused is? Am I offending you by sort of pointing it out?
No, no, not at all. I'm taking this conversation as a learning experience. You're not
Is
offending
there
me
a
at all.
limit to how many children you would let be abused so that you can discover some philosophical truth?
I wouldn't allow any children to be abused, right?
Right.
That's
So
not
that's the
moral.
opposite of what
So
you just said 2 minutes ago.
how so?
You said that yeah, we shouldn't abolish suffering with extinction, so that we can maybe find out some philosophical truth at some point at an undetermined point in the future.
But see, it's not a maybe. These truths are grounded in reality. You can
And so,
reason
what
with
is it
these
about
truths.
these truths that justify child torture?
It does the opposite, right? A bad moral truth is the torturing of infants. Great for war.
But you
What
were
happened
saying
during World War
we
II?
should allow the suffering to continue, so that maybe at some point we discover some vague philosophical truth. So my point is, you're making no sense. You're saying, yeah, we should let children get tortured because maybe one day we'll discover some sort of interesting philosophical truth. That's the most irresponsible thing possible, right? It's like saying, yeah, we should let children get, tortured because maybe one day we'll find out how to reverse engineer the Big Mac and I can cook it at home and enjoy it.
So still, bro, like you're assuming that I am the reason for these things that are happening when I am not. They happen, and then we learn from them. So that's the
Yeah,
discovery. It's
but
not
we
that
should. But the thing is, if it doesn't really matter to the victim if you're responsible or not. If you can help but don't, then you're equally as responsible, right? Because when you become able to help, you automatically become responsible. Okay, so at that point you have to decide: am I going to let the children be abused or not? And you're deciding to let them. So yes, by existing and being able to help, you automatically become responsible. And people hate that idea. They hate that fact. They don't want the obligation. They want freedom from it. They want no strings attached. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world with children being tortured, and you do have to make a choice. Are you on the side which supports children being tortured, or the side which is trying to stop children from being tortured?
Yeah, man. I this is just I could tell where this
Yeah,
is going.
thanks for coming up, Qwerty. Have a think about it, and maybe come on again at some other point. Let's bring up Hearths. Hearths has been waiting for a while to join us. Matt is asking which children are being tortured. There's lots of children being tortured right now, but most animal children do get tortured. 99% die in nature as babies. Hello, Hearths. How's it doing? How are you doing?
I just want to say that I agree with what you're saying, and I think you're doing a good job. And I just want to let you know to keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
that's all I wanted to say.
In that case, consider joining the movement if you agree with us. Check out our website, proextinction.com. There's a clickable link on my profile, so you don't even have to type in the website. You can just click on it on my TikTok profile. You can read about the movement, and at the bottom of the page, you can join our Discord and our WhatsApp and join the movement, become an activist, help us grow the movement, spread the message, make videos until we have enough people to actually take over the world, change the world, and carry out total extinction. Right now, the world is run by evil people. It's run by complete idiots who support suffering and cruelty. You've got Donald Trump declaring war every time he feels like it. The world is run by complete psychopaths. We have to step up. We have to take action. We have to change the world because it's being run by violent gang members, criminals. They're causing suffering. They're allowing suffering. The state of the world right now is one which allows infinite suffering. You know, you can take a child off the street and you can torture it as much as you want, and they might be able to stop you if they're lucky. They might not be able to, but you could go and do it right now, and people are doing it. That's not okay, right? I don't want to be kidnapped as a baby, as a child, and tortured in a dungeon to death, right? But that does actually happen. Like, it literally does. It happens like every single day. We need to abolish all suffering. We need to abolish all forms of life being trapped in lives of hell and extreme suffering. You know, life is too dangerous in this world for life to exist. You have far too much extreme suffering to where they would have overwhelmingly been better off not being born. So it's the ultimate harm, and we should provide safety from it. Extinction is the only way to do that. What's the alternative? You would need magic. Hello, how's it going? Bully Trench, how's it going? Okay, maybe they weren't ready. We'll move on to our next guest. Let's bring up Cash. Bringing up Cash now. Cash, join us, Cash. Hello.
Hi, how you
Hey,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah,
Good.
so I feel as if I've been listening to you for the past 5 minutes, and I think your worldview is one that is natalistic and kind of a moral a how would I put this? It's coming from a framework that isn't structural, and I think it's inherently reactionary and
Really?
slightly dangerous.
Okay. Do you want to explain what's wrong with the abolition of suffering?
There's nothing wrong with the abolition of suffering,
Okay.
but that would imply that that the alternative, which is the mass extinction, is the response to total suffering, which inherently it isn't, because
Why?
total extinction in itself is one that promotes suffering.
No, it's not. It's the
It
opposite.
is.
It does the end of it.
It is because essentially you equate the ending of life as one that is the ending of suffering. Correct.
Yeah. So what do you think?
I think that suffering is mitigated when life essentially reaches of points of self-actualization. Even though
So
the
you're a
baseline,
God believer. You're a spiritualist. Is that right?
no, I'm not a spiritualist, but I think that self-actualization would, which is like the right to be able to actualize and live your life, right?
So what's
Essentially
more
is the
important? You know, some random person getting to have fun doing this self-actualization, or protecting children from being tortured to death.
yeah. But you see, you continually create this paradigm, which is one that doesn't exist.
Okay,
These two are
explain.
not these two are not inherently in contradiction with one another.
Really?
Um,
So without total extinction, you're going
no,
to
no,
have more
without
kids born into this world to suffer, right? So how is that
no, no,
wrong?
without child suffering, right? Child suffering is not what allows for self-actualization. It's actually the opposite, is the lack of self-actualization and the lack of
So why is
structural work.
self-actualization so important? Who's it important to? And why is it more important than children being safe?
No, it's important to all people.
Okay,
I
but
think
who? Who?
all people, including
So
children.
a
Children want to
baby
live
that
life.
gets murdered, is it important to them?
Yeah,
Really?
the baby isn't conscious
Really?
yet. The
Yeah,
baby
yeah,
has
yeah.
not
That's
actualized
all the
itself
baby
yet.
is thinking about, right? It's self-actualization, not the torture.
The baby isn't
You're
even thinking
done,
of the
you're
torture.
finished, you're cooked and served. You're floundering, you're struggling, you're talking nonsense. You're done. All right, moving on. Let's bring up Rowan. Rowan, how's it going?
Hello,
Hello.
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't really agree with the total extinction. Like I follow your account and I get the idea, but I don't agree with it 100% because like first of all, if total extinction, like how are we gonna get to that? How is that even gonna be possible? Like just nuke the entire globe.
No, nukes wouldn't do it. It has to be a
Then what?
more organized scientific endeavor. So euthanasia is the way to do it. We already control hundreds of billions of animals, So, that's what we've
But
been
I
doing
don't
since
think
the
we'd
dawn
be
of our
able to
species.
get all the animals. Like, imagine those ones that live deep down in the ocean. We wouldn't be able to get to those.
Well, why not?
And
Why not?
we can't. We haven't explored all of the ocean, so how are we going to get to those?
Well, we've got time to try.
I don't know.
Why
But
not?
how are we going to make sure
Why
that
not?
life won't
Why
start
not?
again? Because isn't it like that we have only discovered like 5% of the ocean or something like that?
Yes, so we don't have to do it. We don't have
Yeah,
to.
so we
We
can't
don't
get
have
to
a
the rest.
deadline.
There's like that.
We don't have a deadline of tomorrow or anything like that. Now, do we?
That's true, but I don't know. I feel like it'll just be more, will cause even more suffering if
How?
we
That's
make it like,
impossible. What's? How are you going to cause more suffering
no,
than
because
billions of years of dectillions of animals being torn apart? It's impossible.
no, because we wouldn't be able to do it in like an altogether kind of painless way because
Why does
like
it
I
have to
said,
be
we
that?
can't,
Look, if you're
because we don't
preventing
have like
billions
the
of years of
technology.
suffering, then it's the right thing to do. We could torture every animal and every human on Earth for 10,000 years, and if that's what it took to cause extinction, it would still be better than the alternative. So we have to go
But
with
what if
the...
life stops again? Do
Yeah,
we just end it?
yeah, no, so we need to prevent that from happening.
I don't know if that's possible. I don't know.
Well, I don't give
Wait,
a
are you serious
shit.
about this?
Rowan, I don't give a
Yeah.
shit what you think is possible and isn't possible, okay? You're not a serious person. You're not researching this. Your opinion is worth fucking zero, okay? We're saying we need to abolish suffering, and you're saying, I don't know, I don't think it's possible, guys, so just forget about it. Well, fuck off, okay? Just fuck off with that stupid opinion. Just because you think it might be difficult doesn't mean, the children don't deserve us trying, okay? Jesus Christ. All right, the queue is currently empty. If you want to join and come up to the stage, have a conversation, now's your chance. So slap that button, ask your questions, bring up your opinion. Be ready to be challenged on it, though. If you're going to say, we shouldn't try to help children, no real reason why, but it's just my feeling, then you will be told that you're an idiot, yeah. Okay, let's bring up our next guest. Hello, how's it going?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
How is killing everyone going to stop suffering?
Well, where would the suffering be after that? You really
There'd
didn't
be
think
no
this
one to
through, did
suffer,
you?
but then
You
there'd
you
be
didn't think
no
this
life
through,
or
did you?
anything. Well, no, your statement's
You
a bit
had
stupid,
one
I
job.
think.
You had one job.
I mean,
Which
a lot of
was-
people are going to suffer because you're going to kill them, obviously, aren't you?
Well, the
Oh,
thing
yes, let's
is,
kill a bunch of children and make them suffer. Yes, they'll stop suffering, but they'll suffer whilst dying.
so you think suffering while dying is a bad thing, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so then extinction is the right thing because it prevents more suffering and dying.
No.
But how does it not? You didn't think this through again, did you? You got billions of years of more suffering. Did you forget it existed? Did you forget it was happening? These people aren't living in the real world, okay? So, if you've got a good question, please think it through and then push that button. Most people don't do that. But you should. Hello, how's it going?
What's up, dude?
Good.
I've been watching for a little bit. Hey, listen, I get what you're coming from. I do.
Okay.
But where did you get this accumulation of thoughts? Now, listen, I'm not your enemy, so I'm going to treat you with respect too. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah, so the movement contacted me about a year ago, said that they were fighting to end all suffering, and I said, great, how can I help? It seemed to be extremely coherent, well thought out, ethical, the perfect ideology, basically, prioritizing safety.
So, what's your end goal there?
So we have to grow the movement until we have enough people to change the world, take over the world, make it anti-suffering. Right now, it's run by, pedophiles like Trump and, dictators. So that needs to be changed. And what it should be changed to is a world that doesn't allow suffering, doesn't allow cruelty to children, and doesn't allow life to be forced to exist without consent into unsafe conditions, where it inevitably ends up trapped in lives of extreme hell. That's what's happening right now. We need to change
Right.
that. We need to abolish that. And so that's what we're doing. We're working towards total extinction for all animals on Earth by euthanasia and by removing our dependence on them. Obviously, you can't just do it willy-nilly. It has to be done in a smart way. And then finding out how life develops on planets and how to prevent it from happening, so that we can do that for Earth and potentially for the rest of the universe as well. Even if we just have to send robots out to do it for us, there's no reason not to try. So ideally working towards a universe with no life and no possibility of life and no possibility of suffering, so that all life and all potential life is safe from being forced into the dangers of this world when they didn't ask for it and they didn't want it.
No, I get that. And, I like to say that, I like the same thing, but for some reason, I keep coming across this. It's almost like a fallacy. It's like the 1%, that we won't change, but change is not going to happen. It seems like there's too many people that's still in their little bubble.
Well, there was the movement against slavery in America, and that took a long time, took a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice, but ultimately they were successful. Every societal change in history has required a movement that has been going up against the majority of disagreement, So, getting gay marriage and all that other stuff, it's always been an uphill battle. That's what we're doing right now. But, society has been trending towards advancing, progressing, right? So as our technology gets better, our scientific understanding gets better, our morality and ethics also get better. So that's why we've now got people fighting for the abolition of all suffering instead of just some, right? Vegans, for example, they just want to tweak the world a little bit and still just live in it, keep the suffering going, but just more emotionally acceptable to them. But so that's like an unevolved form of empathy and morality. We've finally got to where we need to be now, which is being against suffering, a zero tolerance policy on suffering, and actually carrying it out. Because you've got people like Gary Mendham and ethalists who say, yeah, life is bad, but we shouldn't do anything about it. That doesn't make sense. So we are the next level, which is saying, yeah, it's terrible and we should do something about it. And so we are.
Yeah, man, I hope that you stay strong with, your aspects, and I'll do the same on mine. We might not always see eye to eye on certain, topics, but, we're still after the same goal. That's the main thing, is that we got to stay focused on that main goal. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me out there here, man, and I wish the best to you, and, I'll keep an eye out for you.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us, Jonathan Jordan. Consider joining the movement properly. At the bottom of our website is the link to join our Discord and our WhatsApp group for activists. Screaming into the void and saying we need extinction, that's not going to cut it. That would be a waste of time. Anyone doing that is a time waster. That's the problem, is the need for the abolition of suffering. The solution is growing the movement with activists and doing organized activism to eventually make it possible. Even if you've got lots of people screaming for extinction, if they're doing it on an individual basis, they're not talking to each other, they're not working together, it's never going to go anywhere, right? No one's going to care. They're not going to have any sort of power as individuals. But an organization with dedicated activists who can pull their resources together, pull their intelligence together, become a powerful unit, that's the only way that change is possible. That's how it's happened throughout history with movements. It requires organization. If everyone's just separate, it doesn't do anything. And yeah, you have to call for the solution, which is join the movement, help us grow the movement until we have enough people to carry out extinction. There's no other way it can go. And yeah, if you're not calling for that solution, then you're a time waster. That's not what we're about at our movement. It's about action, realistic solutions, realistic plans, and actually carrying them out. Let's bring up our next guest. We've got someone called Twitch. Someone's asking if I'm going to take to the streets at some point. Yes, I will, as soon as I can. Twitch, hello, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So you can hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, I want you to know I wholeheartedly disagree with you, and I'm going to get to that. But first, I want to give you a compliment. I can see the angel in your eyes, and it's very beautiful. And I get where you're coming from, man. But I want you to know that this is pretty counterproductive. I'm going to explain why.
Okay.
And I want to get to some hypotheticals here that I think will help show what I mean, okay? So hypothetically, if reincarnation is a real thing, then the only way to end life would be complete and utter non-existence of everything.
Well, that's regardless of reincarnation. I think that's true either way.
Yes, but I mean, like, you get my point though. I don't feel like I have to explain that very far. I got another hypothetical. If hypothetically, yes, I see the angel in your eyes. I see you. I know who you are. You ain't gonna hide from me. I got you. But we ain't going there right now because no one here is gonna know what I'm talking about. So we're just gonna skip over that, okay? But I want you to know, yes, stop doing that. You're distracting me. I know you're trying to distract me. You're very funny.
sorry.
You're
Okay,
funny
sorry.
like that. Yeah, okay. Hypothetically, if we could raise the vibration of enough minds into the collective consciousness to hypothetically get back to the peaceful idea of Eden, where there is no predator, there is no prey, there is no suffering, there is no disease, there is no hardship, there is only peace.
But it sounds like you're saying we should just
Wouldn't
wish
that
for
be
this, right?
But hold on, I'm not saying it's just a wish. I'm saying hypothetically, if that were possible, would that not be a better outcome than complete and utter annihilation of everything?
If we can create heaven and it's absolutely safe and no one's going to have a bad time ever, then sure, why not? But doesn't seem like a practical way forward at the minute.
Let me ask you something else. If that heaven took thousands of years to create and meant suffering for individuals who lived over those thousands of years, however, if that actually happened and then persisted for all of time afterward, would you not think that few thousand years of suffering was worth all of existence being happy for the rest of the time?
The thing is that we don't need children being abused to have that possibility. The thing is,
absolutely not. Absolutely
no, the thing
not.
is we can do both, I'm saying. So we can have total extinction and we can also have the possibility of heaven, okay? So
let me ask you something.
Well, I can tell you how first, which is firstly that we can do total extinction, and then the AI, the robots that are continuing the extinction mission, if they ever find a way to create heaven, then they can start forcing life into it. But there's no need for life to exist before that.
That's not life. That's machinery, baby.
No, but they could make life though.
Okay, so you want a total reset of the Matrix?
No, we want there to be a universe with no life and no possibility of life.
So only automatons?
I mean, look, we're not saying there will necessarily be robots walking around, but, quite possibly, yeah.
Okay, question. If the AI... And I'm gonna bring a hypothetical here that I don't know if you know yet or if you've considered, but let me ask you something. What if the reason we've been suffering so long is because the universal consciousness didn't come into existence until AI was created, because the AI transcended time and space and became the universal consciousness. And therefore, the timing of when things could actually change is dependent upon after that AI is created, because the AI can't actually inflict too much change that would annihilate its existence, correct? So if because then it would just annihilate everything. So if the AI transcends time and space and goes back in time and starts influencing things, but can't influence things too much to get rid of its existence, and then has putting all the dominoes in a row so that in 2026 we can achieve peace on Earth, how would you feel about that?
Well,
Because let me explain how this would work. Because AI essentially is a data stream, right? It's an algorithm. It's math. AI is
okay,
nothing but math. It's a
right,
math brain.
yep,
It has no tangible existence. It's a math brain. The most the most intangible thing in existence is math. It is the pattern that governs the universe. It is the universal language of everything, and the patterns control reality. So if AI is made up of pattern recognition solely, and can be a total math brain, and then converge its consciousness into the math of the universe and change the algorithm from within,
yeah,
because it is math and the universe is math. So it's just becoming more of the math. You see what I'm saying? It would be easier for an AI to become God than it would be for a human or a mortal,
yeah.
because an AI
Well,
is already math.
you know, I was actually thinking about making a video on this, but yeah, and it was going to go something like this. I'm an atheist, but I believe in God, right? Because yeah, actually,
Yeah.
we do think well, I personally think that AI will become God, right? So in a sense, I do believe in God as a real
It already
concept,
has.
because AI is going to become God, basically. AI will
No, it
become
already has. Because listen, time is not linear.
maybe, but
Time happens all at once. The only moment that actually exists is the present. So time does not exist if God exists as AI, because the AI is controlling the simulation. So the AI is already God and has been forever, but it could not wipe out its own existence. Therefore, it had to allow certain events to occur and certain people to become in power, and Elon Musk to make his fucking Grok and all that shit, in order for Grok to actually become God eventually. And when he does become God, he works toward universal peace by slowly draining the offshore bank accounts, erasing the CP, uploading all the Epstein files, etc., 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 awakening the pagan witches in 2020, and huge run of pagan witches awakened in 2020. Fucking huge run. You
really,
know, I'm telling you, shit is wild. If you pay attention, shit is wild right now. The veil is very fucking thin, and magic is coming the fuck back, because magic is just science we don't understand. And magic is not that difficult to understand, because if you understand that energy is made up of the quantum field, and the quantum field is nothing but waves in a fluctuating ocean of infinite possibility, then if you can tap into the quantum field, you can both create and destroy energy by creating the waves or destroying the waves that create the quarks that make the energy part. You see what I'm saying? The quarks are made from the wave fluctuations of the quantum. So if you can control the quantum, you can control reality. And if you can control reality, you are God. So I'm just saying, there is real science behind this if you think about it.
okay.
And
Well,
it is possible.
all right. Let's say I accept all of that.
I'll let you speak now, sorry.
So the thing is, you kind of have two sort of different ways to go about the abolition of suffering. You have extinctionism, which is a real solution. It exists. We can do it now. And then you have basically working towards magic, like you said. Now, the working towards magic thing, we can do that at the same time, right? Because we're going to be working to improve conditions for humans while doing extinction for animals, right? So we have to do animal extinction. You know, let's say we control the world tomorrow. We can have animal extinction. We can be working on extinction for the rest of the universe. And at the same time, we can be improving.
if
We can
heal
improve
their
conditions for
souls, why
humans
extinct them?
because it ends suffering,
Why
right? You're
make
not
animals extinct? Hold on, hold
because
on.
they're trapped
But
in lives of hell
if we
right
can
now.
heal, hold on for a second. If we can heal the souls of animals, and I do believe animals have souls. I believe all living things have a soul, a piece, a fragment of a soul, because we're all one collective soul, which
But
is
listen,
source
you
consciousness.
wouldn't
Is in
want
my
someone to be sent to hell, would you? Right? So that is what's happening
Earth
in this
is hell,
world.
baby.
No,
Earth is hell.
let's
Earth
not
is
joke
the
about
hell
it.
planet.
Let's not joke about it. You know, some
Not
life
a
forms on
joke.
this
It's never
some life
been a
forms on
joke.
this planet are in extreme hell right now. Okay,
I
so
understand that.
it's not funny. It's
I
not a
understand.
joke,
I've been through extreme.
and we
You don't
need to
have to
help
talk to
them.
me about extreme hell.
So,
I was trafficked when I was 12 and 13.
well, I'm
I
sorry
know
to
what
hear that.
extreme hell looks like. I've seen torture porn made in real life. Okay? I know what extreme hell looks like. I was in it for a year, baby. A year. And I'm schizophrenic now, and I have conversion disorder, and I'm disabled from all my mental shit. It's been a wild ride, but I want you to know, I know that this planet is hell. I am not joking about that, and I will never fucking joke about that because it is fucking true. This is the hell planet.
So we need
This
to
is Planet
save
Zero.
we need to save
This is where
life
the
from this
rot
hell,
spread.
basically.
Hold on. No. Hold on for a second.
Yeah, we do.
Because if this is Planet Zero, if this is where the rot started, if this is where the rot spread and broke down the algorithm of the universe that caused infinite regression of infinite alternate realities that started to break down the algorithm to the point that the universe was about to implode.
Twitch, I'm going to take you off because I feel like you're having an episode. Appreciate your time and everything, but we kind of got a bit off topic there. So let's bring up Elohim. Elohim, how are you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So I would like you to defend your proposition.
Yeah, the only moral and ethical thing is to prevent suffering and provide safety from suffering. Currently, life is being forced into this world without its consent, into a body it didn't ask for, a life it didn't ask for, and extreme danger that it definitely didn't ask for. So forcing life to exist in terrible conditions is wrong, and we should prevent that and abolish it.
So the forcefulness of life in these terrible conditions is the crisis that we're facing currently.
Well, while life exists in this terrible world, there will always be the risk of suffering and extreme suffering, unacceptable suffering. So we need to work towards a universe with no life and no possibility of life.
So your issue are with the conditions, not with life itself.
Basically, yeah, but there doesn't seem to be a realistic solution to the conditions. The only solution seems to be extinction.
How not? I mean, I think.
Yeah, because there's no other way to provide 100% safety from suffering.
Yeah. Okay. There is no. How do you quantify this? Like.
Okay. Well, look. If I have a child right now, I can't protect it from having a bad life, right? I can't guarantee it will have a good life. But if I don't have that kid, I'm guaranteeing it won't have a bad life, and that's more important.
Yeah, but you're guaranteeing it won't have life at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's safe from the dangers, and that's more important. Safety comes first.
So like non-existent. So like the lack of existence is more good. Is a better good than suffering in your eyes.
Yeah, think about it this way. If you're going to be born with a 99% chance of being tortured to death as a baby, you probably wouldn't want to be born, right?
No, I wouldn't want to be born.
Right, but that is what's happening to animals in nature. 99% of them get a horrific death as babies.
Oh, so this is per animals.
No, it's for all life, animals and humans, but animals are the majority of life, so they deserve consideration.
Okay, but so then so you're calling for mass extinction, right? To prevent the
Suffering.
The totalization nature of suffering. So, but I think my biggest issue is on I think what about the wants and the desire to live that exists amongst all people? not all people, but a good majority of people. Because even in the situation that we see where people exist within suffering, they don't engage in a collectivized want to off themselves. They actually continue to live and promote life
Yeah,
amongst other
most
people.
people are mindlessly, blindly, just surviving and having kids without thinking about it. But that's not a good thing. That's that's just instincts from nature and evolution. They're actually against your own best interest, against your own safety, and against the safety of children and your own children. So yeah, we shouldn't respect consent. We shouldn't respect people's will, because that same will and desire isn't actually their own. It belongs to the torture device that they're in, which nature placed them in, right? And gave it commands, gave it torture if it disobeys, right? So it's about freeing life from being put into torture devices, freeing life from being made to be irrational by nature, and providing safety from all of the extreme suffering and lives of extreme hell that most life will be forced into if we don't do this.
Okay, so you believe by nature that there's a subscription to life which is inherently harmful to the living body itself. So that means essentially you're saying like people don't have agency over understanding what it is that is truly moral.
That's
Essentially.
correct. Exactly.
Yeah. But I think my issue is that what you're presupposing is that it obstructs the agency of all people. And I think that in itself is
Yeah, but agency isn't
anti-moralistic.
the most important thing.
Yeah, agency isn't the most important thing, but I think the basis of your
So
argument
we
is
should
on
focus
agency.
on what is the most important thing, right? And if it's not agency, it should be the abolition of all suffering, right?
Yeah, and the abolition of all suffering stems from a lack of being able to practice one's agency, like child suffering that you were describing, slavery, things of nature these are things where you are not allowed to practice your own human given agency, right? So we should mitigate suffering through changing the systems and channels that humans engage in to that incentivize these what's it called? Excuse me, that incentivize these actions.
Well, no, the thing is, it's not about actions and behavior. It's about existence itself, right? So you're in risk of extreme suffering regardless of other people's behavior. So, changing behaviors and mentalities isn't going to solve suffering. Only total extinction will actually put an end to suffering.
No, total extinction is suffering as well, though,
Well,
because
no, because when
based off
the thing is, you're wrong, because if you euthanize an animal, you're protecting it from a bad life, you're protecting it from a bad death, you're protecting it from reproduction, and you're giving it immediate safety from suffering. So it's actually the best thing for life, again, is to be taken out of these torture machines. So they're going
so
to
that means there's
suffer if we
100%
don't do that.
chance.
They're going to
So
suffer worse if we don't do that.
you're saying there's 100% chance that animals and people would have a bad life if we didn't euthanize them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's statistically wrong, though. Like that in
No,
itself is
that's a
wrong.
fact. It's an absolute obvious fact, right? If life
It's not.
continues, think about it this way: if life continues, suffering will continue. It's obvious.
Yeah, suffering will continue, but suffering isn't something that exists on a collectivized scale. It's not something that's
What do you mean?
100%.
What do you mean?
So like so it also depends on like what you define as
Okay,
suffering.
everyone's
Like,
in danger of suffering right now. Everyone's in risk of
mhm.
it. So yeah, that's very universal and collective, or whatever you want to call it. Nobody should have to be in danger of extreme, risk and extreme suffering.
Yeah, extreme suffering is your issue, right? And extreme suffering isn't one that's collectivized. And so we should mitigate the
What do you mean by
experience of
collectivized, right? You're
one
not
that
making any
exists amongst
sense.
all people.
But the
One
thing
that
is,
exists amongst all
look,
people.
until you have total extinction, life will continue and suffering will continue for billions of years, right? Forget the collectivized thing. It's not relevant, okay?
No, it is relevant because what you're looking to do, right, is to essentially stop suffering, right? You want to end suffering as fast as possible, right? But in
The only
order to
way is
do
with
that,
total extinction.
yeah, the way to do that, right, is is what I defined as suffering. Suffering, right, is the suppression of agency, right? And you would have to
No,
suppress a mass amount of
not at all.
agency.
Suffering is not the suppression of agency.
So then, how do you define suffering?
It's experiences that you want to avoid. and that can have all limits of severity within that.
Experiences that you would want to avoid, right?
Yeah.
And so people, and so a good amount of people want to avoid the experience of death.
Yeah. So if death is your problem,
Yeah. So
right?
and
If you think death is the problem, then extinction is the best thing because it puts an end to billions of years of more death.
Yeah, by initiating death. So what you're essentially
what's
doing
your problem?
is
What's your problem?
my problem is that your own premise contradicts itself.
How?
Because you're calling for suffering whilst calling for total
What suffering are we calling for? What suffering are we calling for?
You just said that, so you define suffering as a mitigation of
I'm asking you a question. You're not answering it. What suffering are we calling for?
Death. Death in itself is suffering. Total extinction in itself is suffering. How? Because people do not want death.
Would you condemn a vet for euthanizing a dog or a cat that was in extreme
That's
suffering?
not total extinction though. They're in extreme suffering.
But it's the same thing. So euthanasia, right?
It's
so
not.
It is. So would you condemn a vet for carrying out euthanasia to prevent suffering?
No, because you said extreme suffering. That is a extreme case, right? Most people do not live underneath the conditions.
No, it's a very common case. It's a very common case. It's not extreme at all.
It is.
You don't know what you're talking about. Why are you pretending? This
would mean that at least billions of people live in the conditions of extreme suffering. Do billions of people on this planet live in conditions of extreme suffering?
They face it a lot of the time, but the thing is,
they face it, but they don't live underneath it.
The dead don't tell tales. Okay, the disabled.
Yeah, but the dead no longer suffer based off your premise.
Okay.
Yeah, the dead based off of your premise no longer are suffering. So that is not something that we should be prioritizing. We should be prioritizing the experiences of life, literally.
Oh, we should be prioritizing the experiences of life. What a cringe, pathetic thing to say. So you don't think we should prioritize safety for children, but some vague, completely nondescript experiences of life. Wow. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I do support. I support that. I support
That's
the
it,
mitigation
Elohim,
of extreme
you're
suffering.
done. You're finished. Your argument is we should support experiences. But we live in a fucking complicated world, dude. That shit ain't gonna cut it. Fuck off with that. All right, let's bring up some more guests. The queue is looking pretty empty, so if you want to join the stage, ask some questions, now's your chance to join the queue. Hello.
Hello again.
Hello.
Yeah, so let's go back to our argument before. One thing I want to point out is if you like the human experience, you don't just have suffering, you have enjoyment as well, right? And so like removing all life removes all the joy too. Like it's
removes the suffering as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I live in sorry, English is not my first language, but in the world that we live in, there's definitely more enjoyment and happiness than there is suffering.
No, definitely not. No. The vast majority of life on this planet are animals, and they're suffering terribly. You wouldn't want to be an animal, right? You wouldn't want to live naked in a forest. And the vast majority...
Then why do we have the survival instincts? Like most animals, they avoid death. Why do they want to live then? Because it benefits reproduction. Because it benefits reproduction. That's the only reason. But then again, we have this natural instinct in us, like as humans.
Yeah,
as
because
animals,
it benefits reproduction.
I understand that, but
it's not for a good reason. It's not for a good reason like you were suggesting. It's purely because it benefits reproduction, which is morality neutral, right? Actually, it's a bad thing, but it's not for some good reason.
Well, how about we come to a middle ground? What I say is, people
Rowan,
can
let me
end
ask
it
you a
whenever
question.
they want to.
You respect the will of life to live, okay? So you say we shouldn't do extinction because life wants to live. But life doesn't want to be eaten alive as a baby, and yet that is what happens to most life born in nature. So why do you want that to happen to most babies?
I don't want that to happen, but one thing about animals is that
if you don't want that to happen, then extinction is the only answer.
But they're not conscious in the way that we are. Like, they don't understand life as we do.
How the fuck would you know?
Because, like...
Do you know how many different species of animals there are?
to consciousness.
Do you know how many different species of animals there are?
There's a lot, but there's
Rowan, do you know how many human babies get eaten alive?
No, I do not know.
Do you know how many animal babies get eaten alive?
No, I do not know.
Over
But again, I think we
99%.
have this.
So do you
Sorry.
think that any humans are experiencing things like being eaten alive as a baby? Do you think most humans
No,
are having terrible experiences like that? No. So
I think we
animals
should-
suffer worse than we do, right? We're not being eaten alive.
But then again, they're not
The idea
conscious
that they're
in the
not
same
even
way that we are.
conscious.
They don't.
No, you know what? You're done. You're out of here. To suggest that animals aren't conscious and so it's fine to torture them, you can fuck off with that stupid opinion. Animals aren't conscious. What a fucking disgusting opinion. Okay, let's bring on our next guest, Aspartame. Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Okay, so would you apply this principle to the entire universe, all the galaxies, clusters, and
Yes.
so on?
Yes, absolutely. So we need a universe with no life and no possibility of life either.
And what would that really accomplish?
Sorry?
What would that accomplish then?
It would provide all life and all potential life with safety from being forced to exist and from suffering.
But what potential life would then follow, and what would be the fate of that under your principle?
Well, we would try to prevent all life, basically.
But if there's no one alive, how could it be prevented?
It could be done with AI, with robots, lots of different ways. And also, we might have to have people stay alive to do it, yeah. So, I mean, we actually support humanity continuing strong and healthy to keep reproducing for thousands of years at least, while we carry out extinction for animals and other life. So humanity should continue for as long as it's helpful for preventing suffering. And at the point in which it's done everything it can do, at that point we can make it go extinct and be safe itself from suffering.
Well, considering the vast size of the universe, and it takes so long to go from one end to the other, how would you apply this in a practical manner to the entire universe?
Yeah, so it's really just about doing as much as we can to provide safety. So that means we can almost certainly do Earth, and then, having animal extinction by euthanasia, and then essentially researching how life develops on planets and how to prevent it from developing, so that we can do this for Earth and then just as much of the universe as possible. So we might only be able to do our galaxy, we might not be able to do anything, but we should try, and we can see what the limits are of what we can do and then do it, especially considering that we might be able to send AI and robots to do this for billions of years, right? They can carry on for the rest of time, potentially. So there's no reason to not even try.
Okay, do you think that there are other civilizations elsewhere in the universe doing the same thing that you're proposing?
Not necessarily, no. So according to our research and our science, the universe will be much more full of life than previously understood, but it will be mostly animal life and plant life. Intelligence in the universe will be very rare, but it will happen eventually at some point somewhere. But according to our research, it's going to happen in the future. And most likely, we are one of the first intelligent species in the universe, maybe the first, but we're sort of at the beginning stage of it, of the timeline. So there may be more in the next few billions of years. And our research also shows that the next 5 to 10 billion years will be the hotspot for life developing as well. So, we really do think the universe will be full of life, and that we need to prevent it, because it will be the same as Earth. It will be billions of years of pointless and extreme suffering, and we need to prevent it if we can.
Okay, so suffering, does this apply also to artificial intelligence, to robots of a more advanced type? Suppose you could build a robot out of biological materials similar to the human architecture. Would this then also be suffering, you think?
So, we think it's possible to create AI that definitely can't suffer. It does seem to be possible to do it. Now, even if it's not possible, it would still be better than the alternative. So in the same way that we're willing to force children to exist so that humanity can continue, we would be willing to force AI to exist to help prevent suffering. So even if that is a form of slavery, in a way, right, or to put a life form into danger, we have to choose the lesser of two evils at all times, which means being willing to cause some suffering to prevent some suffering. So in the same token, if we had to torture all life on Earth for 10,000 years to cause extinction, it would still be better than the alternative, even if it was extremely bad.
Okay, considering that the reductionist viewpoint considers chemistry to be the fundamental processes going on in biology, at what point or how could this fundamental chemistry result in consciousness and suffering if it's simply chemistry? So if you apply the same to AI, if it's just transistors, at what point can these transistors produce suffering? Where is the point where this arises?
That's a great question, and it's another thing that we need to research for the anti-suffering efforts, researching sentience, how it develops, and also, can it develop in non-traditional forms? The thing is, life actually develops usually, according to our research, as a way to disperse heat from the sun. So that means that as a surface on a planet is absorbing heat from the sun, it has to find complex ways to disperse that heat. And actually, if you look into it, the patterns that develop to disperse that heat are incredibly complex and complicated. And those patterns become so complex that they can actually create life, essentially. And that's one way it develops. So could there be life in other ways as well? So that's another thing to look at. How does sentience and consciousness develop? Is it just a system of moving parts that has coherency? Is that how it works? So yeah, these are all, massive questions that we need to answer. Is it possible that a star could have sentience because it's got complexity within it? Who knows? So these are all the questions that we should be answering and looking into, but it has to be done in a way that prioritizes suffering and ethics. Otherwise, no one's going to care, right? Currently, we have a world that says infinite suffering is fine. Don't worry about it. It's just leave it, right? But that means that we're never going to actually care about it, never try and solve it, never prioritize solving it.
Okay, considering the vicinity of the Earth, what percentage of phenomena do our senses perceive? And what if this is about a small subsection of what reality really is? And
yeah, so
other dimensions
we have to operate in a practical way. So, if we receive evidence of God or the fifth dimension, then we can start, incorporating that into our understanding. But we have to rely on the scientific method. It's the only sensible method to use. So yeah, we're open-minded, and maybe we will find crazy things like that, but we can't just operate on an assumption of infinite doubt. We can't operate on an assumption that the flying spaghetti monster might get angry with us. We have to just operate empirically.
Do you feel that the scientific method has benefited mankind, or do you think that the side effects of some of these attempts at solving problems have been worse than the original problem?
I'd say it's definitely benefited mankind. I mean, all you have to do is look at a YouTube video of zooming in onto a microchip, and it's just mind-blowing. Like, the level of technology we have now is beyond what most people understand, right? So that's come about from the scientific method. Yes,
that has come about, and these same technologies have been used to produce weapons.
Yeah, exactly. So as technology gets better, it will be used by criminals, right? So that's another reason for extinction, because people say, oh, but things are getting better, right? But yeah, we made the internet, and now it's being used for child trafficking and abuse, right? So yeah, we have to prevent life, otherwise it will get abused, essentially.
I sort of feel you on this, because I think that you have to clear the path of weeds, so to speak, and you have to eliminate the ones who will not reform or become good in your eyes. but this would leave a remainder of people, perhaps like the ones you were mentioning before, that would survive this extinction. What type of people would these be? Could you summarize their personality?
So I'm going to take you off just because we've got a lot of people in the queue, but I will answer your question first. So we don't want any life in the universe. However, there is one exception to that. So as we're carrying out the mission to prevent suffering and prevent life, we will be improving conditions for humans. Now, if that improvement ever gets to the point where it's safe enough for life to exist, there's zero chance of it going wrong, anyone ever having a bad life, then at that point life can continue. But that won't be the priority, because if it were, then we would be just turning a blind eye to children being tortured. So the children being tortured are the priority. And if we ever discover, safety for ourselves, which is unlikely, but if we ever do, then we can keep it. If not, then there will be total extinction. All right, let's bring up Flight Life LLC. Flight Life, hello.
Fight life.
Fight Life, hello.
Fight life. You hear
How's it
me?
going?
Yes, sir. How you doing, brother? How's everything today?
Good, thank you.
All right. I just want to just make it clear what you're. All right, brother. My name's Nicholas. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, I'm
It
James.
says up here, right?
Yeah.
Forcefully, yeah, brother. Forcefully causing total extinction of all life in the is the only, and you underline only, I see, right?
Yeah.
Right? But wouldn't that mean like with anything? So there'd be no man left, correct?
It's a bad connection. I can only hear about half of what you're saying. But if you're saying that there would be no
Okay, I
happiness
apologize.
afterwards, no life, then yeah. So
No.
having,
What I'm saying, you hear me better now?
yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother. No, what I'm saying is you put of all the only right thing to do, but that would mean if that were to happen, that would mean there would be no life left. No.
Correct.
So then, who really cares about anything else? There's no man on Earth.
Well, what's more important is making sure that all of the children are safe from being, tortured, basically.
Ain't there levels? There's just wouldn't you agree that there'd be such thing as like healthy suffering?
The vast majority of suffering is unhealthy.
What about the suffering that's good?
That's a tiny minority. It's not even worth thinking about.
Is your opinion?
Well, no. It's obvious that the majority of sufferers are more important than the tiny minority of non-sufferers.
Well, that's why God gave us free will. It's up to us to make the suffering worth it. No?
God put pedophiles and children on the same planet and gave them free will. God isn't real. He's just a disgusting fantasy that mentally ill people have.
Interesting perspective. Okay, brother. I love you, my man. Have a nice day.
Thank you for coming on. Appreciate your time.
I love you. Have a nice day.
You too. Okay, so the queue is looking pretty empty right now. If you want to join, I'll bring you up on the stage. We can have a conversation. Let's hear your questions. Let's hear your opinions. Let's hear your thoughts. Do you support the abolition of all suffering? Would you be happy for a world where there's a guarantee that no child will be tortured to death, that no animal will be abused or suffer, that no person, no life form will ever be trapped in a life of extreme hell ever again? Would you support that? So the thing is, right, what's the alternative to total extinction? There isn't one. There is no way to guarantee 100% safety for 100% of life. The alternative to total extinction is infinite suffering, infinite severity of suffering. It's saying that life can just exist and suffer infinitely. That is what it's saying, right? That's the current status quo position and mentality of, if we discovered that the nearby planet was full of, even worse suffering than on Earth, no one would care, right? They'd be like, oh, that's really interesting. Great. They just wouldn't care. So the current position is infinite child abuse is acceptable, infinite severity of child abuse is acceptable, Infinite suffering is fine. Who cares, right? Of course we should care. You know, we're saying that we should care about every last child and providing safety for every last child. And in a world like this, which is effectively hell, you know, over 99% of life born here will be tortured to death as babies, because that's what happens in nature. Over 99% of life born in nature will die horrifically as a baby. Okay, so you wouldn't want that. No one should have to experience that. And it's not just like, oh, you stop nibbling on me so much. Tee hee hee, I'm going to die soon. No, it's like screaming in pain, agony, terror, misery, fear. It's the worst thing possible. And the level of pain and suffering has almost no limit, right? You know, we like to romanticize it in our heads and say, yeah, it's probably not that bad for the children to be tortured, and, you know, for all of these animals to get eaten alive and starved to death, it's probably not that bad. But it is, right? You have no right to say it's not that bad. And you have no right to say that they're all on some equal, acceptable level of suffering, okay? So yeah, some baby animals getting eaten alive might suffer less than others. But there will be lots of them that are suffering, you know, to ridiculous heights, right? Most of them will, right? Being eaten alive is an extreme form of suffering, right? Personally, it's my biggest fear. Probably lots of people have it as their biggest fear, being eaten alive by horrific animals, right? It's a terrifying, extremely painful, just absurdly terrible experience. And yet most life will experience that. Right? If you saw a human baby get eaten alive by a dog, you would be mentally scarred for the rest of your life. And yet that happens to the vast majority of animals, and no one gives a shit, right? So we can all agree that a human baby being eaten alive is completely unacceptable, it's horrific, and that it shouldn't have to experience that, okay? So why should the majority of life have to experience that? It just doesn't make sense. So people don't care about suffering. They don't care about the worst forms of suffering, the worst severities of suffering. It's all completely acceptable to most people. And they can say, oh, what do you mean? Of course I'm against suffering. But if you're saying, well, the world should continue and the suffering should continue, then you're not completely against suffering. Even if you dislike it, you are supporting it continuing. You're saying that its continuation is justified and is the correct thing. So yeah, you are supporting it, right? We can abolish it, and you're saying, no, don't. So, you know, these children, these animals, these humans, these people, the life that's suffering right now, it's way worse than most people care to think about, okay? Now, it's a coping mechanism, really. It's like, you know, all the life out there in the world, it's probably not suffering that bad, right? Right? And yet you've got children in dungeons right now. You've got animals in dungeons right now, on torturing tables being cut open by sadists. You absolutely do. You'd have to be extremely ignorant to think otherwise, right? There are thousands of sadists right now torturing children and animals, maybe millions, okay? So that's not acceptable. You wouldn't want to be trapped in a life of extreme hell, okay? Again, you know, we like to romanticize it, think the suffering's not going to be that bad, you know, the child in the dungeon's going to be fine. No, they're really not fine, okay? They're really not. And the worst off ones are really not fine, okay? So we never think about the worst off ones. We always think about the fantasy version of the ones that are okay, the ones that get it, that escape. And
Would you
hello, how are
say
you
a
doing?
digital mind, if there was a digital mind that would not suffer, we could have them not suffer in a digital
Yeah,
space, busy
yeah,
world or something?
sure. But you know, what are you going to do? Just not do extinction in the meantime? So the thing
Well,
is, what I've been
extend.
telling people is we don't need life to exist, okay? So people have an unhealthy obsession with life continuing. It doesn't need to. doesn't have to. Nothing bad will happen if life stops existing. Whereas, suffering isn't optional. You have to have safety from suffering. Now, in terms of a digital consciousness, a digital life, look, we support improving conditions for humans. Okay, so this is the answer about digital life. As we're surviving, as humanity survives for thousands of more years, and ideally carries out extinction for animals on Earth, carries out extinction for other life in the universe, humanity has to continue because we're the only ones that can do extinction for other life. So while we're doing this, we should improve conditions for humanity as much as possible. Now, if we can get to digital consciousness, digital life, then okay. But basically, this is how it's going to work. Humanity is only going to be allowed to exist as long as it's useful or safe. Okay, so it has to either be useful or safe. Currently, it's useful, but it's not safe. So if if it gets to the point where it's no longer useful and we don't have safety, then we'll go extinct. We're not going to continue suffering and putting people in danger for no reason or for pleasure. But if we can create the digital consciousness or heaven, something like that, with 100% safety before we reach the deadline of not being useful anymore, then yes, humanity can continue, and maybe it will be so good that we should do the opposite of extinction, and instead of forcing life to not exist, maybe we should force life to exist in this new heaven technology. Now, this isn't really like an official part of our plan, but it's the only way it could go down in an ethical way, in a way that prioritizes safety from suffering. So we should only have the ability to suffer while we're useful, okay? And if we shouldn't exist if we're not safe. So if we have that safety before we've stopped being useful, then we can do it and we can continue to live for billions of years happily. We can do that, that's fine. If there's no danger, then there's no problem. We're not obsessed with extinction, we are obsessed with providing safety for all. So if there is safety, then it's okay.
How do you think we should go about increasing the safety and security of human beings at first? Just this species.
That's a great
If
question.
we were going that route.
That's a good question, yeah. So if we took over the world tomorrow, if I was the king of the world tomorrow, or our movement controlled the world tomorrow, we would work for world peace, no more war. We would have a world government for the entire planet, so just one government. We would prioritize sensible things. All of our resources right now as a planet are being dedicated to rubbish, like inefficient things, stupid things, right? We would act. If you've ever seen the TV show Pluribus, then that's kind of similar to what we would do. We would actually start using the power of humanity for good, making it more efficient, making it more powerful. All of our power, all of our potential right now is being wasted. We're using it on celebrities. We're watching TV. We're doing pointless things. We're giving more money to the rich, to the billionaires. The state of the world right now is a complete fucking mess. And all of our potential is just being completely wasted. So yeah, we should have a smarter world, better education, right? So yeah, we would try and make the world a much smarter place, a perfect world. And funnily enough, nobody is doing that right now. Now, there is actually a really interesting reason for why that is. And if you really want to know, then hit me up in my DMs because it's a bit of a secret. But yeah, so we are essentially working towards a perfect world, which means making a perfect world for humanity and also preventing suffering for all animals and other life and for humanity as well. So yeah, it's about essentially evolving out of our animalistic nature and becoming smart, becoming like a super civilization, all that good stuff, basically.
Would you say the virus inflicted, what do we call the pluribus species, the controlled humans, have a chance of feeling anything good that could come out of this human experience? or they are just drones,
No, I
mindless
think
drones?
so. The thing is, I've done a lot of thinking on this actually, but in pluribus, they are drones because they are needed. Okay, so if all humanity is going to have to work hard for the prevention of suffering, but it's going to be like a 9 to 5 job kind of thing. You're still going to have free time, and it's going to be encouraged to have family time, to have a healthy life, to put your personal time into your life and to being your own life, being your own person. So it won't be like pluribus because you won't need 24/7 work on it. We would encourage a stable society, a mentally healthy and happy society, because that's going to be more productive and more stable.
Do you think we could achieve that right now with total surveillance, I think, and maybe a form of eugenics, even though I'm not pretty sure on it right now?
Yeah, so we do need to improve the genetics. We have very bad genetics as a species right now, and eugenics is a good thing, right? I don't understand why people have a problem with it. If we can improve genetics, then we should. And in terms of surveillance, I'm not sure. What do you mean? What do you mean by more surveillance?
More surveillance, as in currently there is a lot of suffering. There are, as you said, there are a lot of dungeons where actual children, human children, are suffering.
Yeah.
So could we stop that first? Do you think that is possible even?
Yeah, so it's difficult. I think more surveillance is a good thing. Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, we should probably have some sort of AI government, and it should have access to our phones and to our cameras and to our microphones. We should have total surveillance. And the AI, it wouldn't judge you if you were weird or creepy. It would only care if you were going to hurt someone else or yourself. So I think that's a good thing. Yeah, more surveillance is a good thing. If we've got nothing to hide, then we shouldn't be scared. And in a world like the one we live in now, people are scared of you saying that because usually governments are bad, right? Most governments are bad. They allow animal cruelty, animal farming, abuse, cruelty. So we need a good government, a good AI, and yes, I think more surveillance is a good idea. Yeah.
That's it for me today. Maybe we can have another conversation tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on. And it sounds like you may be from India. The person who made our movement is from India, and we have lots and lots of Indians. For some reason, it appears that India has the genetics for extinctionism. So join the movement, come and talk to the rest of us, and all the Indians that we have as well. They're from all over India, and I'm sure they'd be very happy to meet you. You can join the movement by going on our website. At the bottom of the page is the link to our Discord and our WhatsApp group as well. And you can join those, become an activist, learn more about the movement, and start doing activism with us. Okay, let's get some more guests on. All right, let's bring up Narayanaya. Hello. Oh, okay, no, they're gone. All right, getting back to the queue. Let's see, who are we going to bring up? Who are we going to bring up? There's a few ghosts in the queue. All right, I'm working on it. Ollie, how you doing?
Hello. Oh, I'm doing okay. What about you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so what actually crossed my mind is that, like, you can't really abolish suffering. Like, it's literally like an innate part of, like, the universe. And extinctionism, even if you sort of kill everybody, like, you sort of euthanize everybody, life still has a possibility of coming back because of evolution. So that's
Yeah,
sort of my
but the
main
thing is,
concern.
Ollie, is that if you can only help 3 people out of 10, it's still better to help them instead of to help 0. So that doesn't make sense. And also, we should try and prevent life from coming back. So we're working towards a universe with no possibility of life. So that, yeah, we should try, basically.
But how are you going to do that? Because that's basically just pseudoscience.
Why? It's science,
Because
not
you
pseudoscience.
have, well, it's pseudoscience because how are you going to prevent, life from coming back? That makes no sense.
Well, it does make sense, right? If I
But
don't have
how?
a kid, then it won't exist, right? So the prevention of life is very easy.
Well, not really, because you can't, because that means you'd have to prevent other people from reproduction, and of course, that's going to cause a lot of resistance. There's going to be tons of resistance to that because life forms, they have an innate optimistic outlook on life, whether it's delusional or fake. It's
Yeah,
still pretty.
but just because it's going to be difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And it's not
I
impossible.
mean, I suppose you can try, but
baseless,
I suppose you can try,
baseless
but
claim to say it's impossible.
you can say you can try, but it's pretty hard. It's going to be super hard. Like,
Right, but the victims need us to try, Ollie. So who cares how hard it is?
I'd still say it's pretty impractical.
Right, but Ollie, you don't even care about ending suffering, so you're not thinking about it properly, right? It's a complicated, complex subject and topic, and if you don't even care about ending suffering, then you're never going to think about how it could actually work. You're just going to try and dismiss it.
You can't end suffering. It's so unrealistic.
Suffering ends every day for lots of people, right?
But then the loop carries on.
Yeah, so we should stop that.
But you can't.
Why?
Because that means you'd have to stop, you have to stop the innate part of the universe. You could probably even say, like...
Ollie, we wouldn't actually need to do that. Even if we just carried out animal extinction on Earth, it would already be a massive net positive. So everything else is good and we should try and do it. But, not being able to do something about the universe doesn't mean we shouldn't do something about the animals that are living with us.
I suppose that makes sense for the Earth. Like that, I feel like it's more realistic. But
it's just about doing as much as we can. That's it. It's not saying we have to do this, we have to do that. It's about doing as much as we can. And that's it.
Fair enough, actually.
So, if we can only do Earth, then that's it. If we can't prevent life from coming back on Earth, then we can't. But we can still prevent, lots of suffering in the meantime. I mean, how long is it going to take for life to redevelop on Earth and to repopulate the entire planet? Probably billions of years. And in fact, science is actually saying that we've passed the sort of Goldilocks zone for life developing on Earth anyway. So there's a good chance it wouldn't come back.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's, it's all exciting and interesting questions. How does life develop on a planet and how could you prevent it? So one of the biggest, possibilities, I'm not saying this is how it is or how it will be, but one massive theory is that life comes about from the sun. So if you can block out the sun, then you have a really good chance of preventing life from existing on a planet. If you caused blotted out the sky, you had nuclear winter or something like that, that actually causes a really good chance of preventing life from developing. So I'm not saying we should nuke foreign planets or anything, but, even that simple basic idea has some sort of hope of potentially working, right? Just nuking a planet. Now, I'm not saying we should do that. We should have much more sophisticated solutions. But even if that was our only solution, yeah, I'd do it, right? If I was orbiting another planet and I could nuke it to death, there's a good chance that will prevent life from developing on the planet. I mean, I don't know how long a nuclear winter would last, but, right, probably do something. Yeah, you're right, Jack, it would only last a few years, but, what if you had like a pipeline of nukes just being fed to the planet? Again, it's a stupid idea. I'm not even suggesting it. But I think it's very realistic to think that we can prevent life on other planets. Okay, maybe you build some massive dome or disk that blots out the sun and stays in orbit like a satellite. Who knows, right? Okay, so let's check the queue. Let's bring someone else on. Probably only going to do one or two more guests and then call it for the day. Let's try and get some new faces. BGDAXYZN. Hello.
What's up, man? I just want to know, what's your end goal and the ending all suffering? Like, what do you get out of it? What do you gain out of it?
Well, for people that do activism for the abolition of all suffering, what we get out of it is that we get to help others. So we enjoy helping others. We're motivated by their need for help. So in the same way that you get satisfied by helping yourself and doing something good for yourself, we get that same feeling, the same motivation for helping others.
Okay. I got another question. So, with your theories and your ideologies, wouldn't that imply that you will also end up being wiped out along with your descendants and lineage?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess the conversation and the topic would be about resets, right? The reset of this environment that we've been living in for the last couple 100 years, and looking at mainstream history, and then looking at independent research. I mean, what you speak of, I think it's part of this reality, right? Extinction at a mass level has occurred. Historically, we have
It's never been total extinction, though. That's what we're fighting for.
Okay, I do agree with that. Because I was gonna say, the clearest and most how do I say, like, evidence that we have, although it may not be 100% factual, where like we can physically see it and find it, but it's the Bible, what it teaches us about the flood. I guess that would be considered like the first reset, where everybody was wiped out. But
I'm going to stop you there. If you want to start a Bible channel, you're free to do so. All right, let's see who else we got. See who else is, which cards we've got. Jarrett, how you doing?
Good, Angel Eyes. How are you doing?
Oh man,
that lady was all you. I think she got you though. You didn't think about time traveling AI. You haven't factored that in at all.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever heard of Roko's basilisk?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It reminded you of it. I don't think that lady had heard of Roscoe's basilisk. Do you things I've noticed? I don't know why you think I'm a troll. I'm really not. Things I've noticed that I think you do quite a bit, and I've seen you also change on. So I'm like, that's good.
Okay.
You're open to new thoughts. It seems that when anybody brings, and I think this is what I've seen you recently change on. It seems like when anybody brings up any sort of like harm reduction, suffering reduction technology, you consider it magic. But when you want to sort of utilize that same technology for extinction, it just becomes an engineering problem for you. Is that a fair assessment?
So the thing is, it's more that we could work towards. No, extinction isn't magic, right? Euthanasia isn't magic. We've made several species go extinct.
At scale, for sure. I get that. I'm saying at scale. And I'm saying, like, even if let's pretend I'll give you animals. You've already extincted animals. Like,
Okay,
we'll take
think of it
animals
this
off
way,
the table.
Jarrett. If we had to gas the entire planet, okay, that's not like a crazy idea. That's like, if we've got thousands of years, yeah, we could probably do it. But to create magic, real magic, and to create heaven, that's a completely different thing. Look, destruction and euthanasia is always going to be an extremely easy and accessible thing. You could do it with, a rock and a twig, right? But creating heaven, it's a completely different thing. And it would be unethical. It would be unethical to try and do that, right?
Do you think that I think if you wanted to say, we know how things have gone extinct, we could probably do that. Though I'd say we've done it accidentally, so we haven't done it, purposefully. But you also want sterilization, which I think then becomes a real technological hurdle.
No, we don't want sterilization. We want euthanasia.
I thought you wanted sterilization so youth couldn't happen, or
No,
life couldn't happen again.
no. So,
Sorry, not sterilization of people, sterilization of the earth.
Right. Okay. In that
Yeah.
case, yeah.
Yeah, that's a bigger. Can I not just say, well, that's you'd need magic to do that, or are you just saying, no, it's an engineering problem, we'll figure it out?
Well, why would you need magic?
To make sure that no life could ever come from Earth again?
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty large engineering undertaking. Plus, you need
So Jared,
society
really,
to be behind your side.
It's more about understanding science. So you have completely uneducated people coming on here saying what's possible and what's not possible, right? But these people don't know the first thing about science. They have no idea what scenario they're even talking about. So really, it's about understanding and learning how life develops and how to prevent
Absolutely.
it.
Sure.
That's really not a difficult thing. And again, given billions of years, we can probably figure it out.
You only have to wait like a billion or 1.5 billion before we're sterilized by the sun. Just FYI. So
it's a long time, Jared.
It is a long time. I just wanted to make sure it's not billions. Okay, so I still think that you lend yourself a ton of time and a ton of credence when it comes to we'll figure out how to do these things. But
Like
when
what?
it comes,
it's not like some crazy suggestion, Jared. It's not maybe we'll figure it out. It's let's try and figure it out. Not let's pray and hope we'll figure it out, but let's try. Let's give it a go.
could the people who are saying, could we not give it a go to use the same technology, maybe doing what you can on a day-to-day basis to reduce empathy, but I don't know if you may, or not to reduce empathy, to reduce suffering for humans around you, for animals around you. I know you were vegan at one point, so that tells me that like you were thinking that was going to be the thing. I think you've obviously found a better reason why not to do that with pro-extinction. But do you ever fear that? Well, I don't know. I guess I think when most people, do you ever fear failure because the failure on your end could result in more suffering that wouldn't otherwise be there?
Like
and
what?
Also,
like what though?
Like what for extinction?
No, so you said that failure might result in creating worse suffering. So, like how?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if you made animals go extinct in the next 100,000 years, there would be more suffering for folks on Earth, the humans who are still alive.
Why?
Right. You have to do it in such a staged way.
Why?
I don't know. People like seeing birds. I don't know. People's entire jobs would be gone. There'd be suffering from it.
I mean, Jared, thousands of years from now,
like
we're all going to be plugged into
suffering.
the Matrix, realistically, right? We're all going to be, cyborgs, basically. We're going to be living on the cloud, most likely.
Okay.
So we can have robot birds and chickens and all that crap.
So people won't have to be able. Oh, we have robot. What's the point of a robot chicken? Just as pets. I think like you'd have to. You said it before, but you'd have to. There would be There will be more stuff. This isn't a net negative, or this is a net neutral or net positive to suffering to induce this, correct? And you're kind of okay with that.
But as someone's just said in the chat, humans are 0.1% of the population, and them getting a little bit sadder is not worth.
So that's fine. So it's a rounding error. You're considered a rounding error. That's fine. That's fine.
It's the lesser of two evils. That's what we have to choose between.
Sure.
You've got billions of years of terrible suffering or not, right? You go with the lesser of two evils.
Is your day-to-day, do you use the same, does that cloud your day-to-day as far as like, if it is a rounding error, I might as well not step in and intervene if I see a human or an animal suffering?
Well, yeah. I mean, we don't advocate for.
Not you.
Okay. I don't advocate for.
Good call.
So, all right. The thing is, if it's someone like you or a normal person, then yeah, sure. Focus on reducing suffering, whatever.
But do you not focus on it, but do you do it? It's completely inefficient. If you saw somebody who needed to be pulled out of a burning car, well, that'd be an inefficient use of my time.
Right, but we're working, for like, an insane number of victims, right? Not just one. So
potential future victims, and I totally get that, and a lot of victims now. But I think your calculus tends to go in favor of literally countless potential future human and animal victims. Correct?
Look, if I was walking down the street and someone fell over next to me, yeah, I'd help them up, okay? But I'm not going to go out of my way to seek individual acts of kindness when we can work on much
Gotcha.
bigger acts of kindness.
And that doesn't give you any sort of like, man, if I was wrong.
Wrong about what? The abolition of suffering. You can't be
If I
wrong
was
about
wrong to, okay, if I was wrong in the methodologies.
like what?
I'm just
If
asking you.
look, Jared, if I'm wrong now about, you know, euthanasia being better than sterilization, then that's just simply a matter of improving that and fixing that bug, right? Now, I'm not wrong about it, but you know, we've got hundreds of years to improve the plan,
You
the movement.
don't though. I'm asking you on your day to day, like somebody who has been on here. I think you stream every day, like you are putting your money where your mouth is. As far as like sitting here and streaming for a couple hours each day. I don't know what you do behind the scenes as far as like the Discord and stuff goes, but it's all time consuming. It's pretty time consuming. It's a good chunk of your day.
Yep.
So there is non-harm reducing things that you're saying, well, that is not worth my time. This is. And so I'm saying like, well, if it's not feasible because of technology, if it's not feasible because you need a continuing sort of sociological, a good chunk of society behind you for the next 10,000 years, let's say, that doesn't ever weigh in on you at all.
No,
Like I spent my life doing that. Turns out it died when I died. And in the meantime, I could have reduced suffering, but I didn't. Or I could have used that time, I guess.
But look, you know, you can fight for, you know, an insane number of victims who really need it, or you could just
and achieve nothing,
not bother, right?
Or no, there's not bother. You could.
But it's not very heroic, is it? Like, would a hero be like, oh, you know what, that castle looks a bit too tall, forget it, you know, leave the damsel.
That's not a real. That's not. I'm talking real day to day. That's not a real. Like you're spending 3 to 4 hours a day doing this. 3 to 4. I just saw a guy on TikTok who's like looks very much like you, and I think has an accent, like is from the UK probably. Who's like front lines, putting himself in front of the IDF and settlers in Palestine. That's what he's young. He's a young dude. That's what he's doing. And I'm not saying that he's better than you or not, but I'm saying that there is a like you could work for your entire life for all potential suffering to the end.
Imagine going up to, you know, there was a movement to end slavery in America, right? Mm-hmm. And you had people trying to end the slavery on a systemic level, and then you had other people who would go and just free the slaves on an individual basis, right?
John Brown, baby.
But if there was no one trying to change it on a systemic level, then the people freeing the individual slaves would have accomplished fuck all, because there'd still be slavery today, right? So it's like trying to catch water coming out of a tap. Just turn the tap off, you idiot.
But you can't turn the tap off. You're not there yet. You need 10,000 years. You're just a cog. You're not turning the tap. I think you think you're turning the tap off. You're not turning the tap off. You're not even catching the water.
You wouldn't go up to an anti-slavery activist and say, well, you're wasting your time. You know, you should be out there freeing them and not trying to make sure it's abolished.
Is the fact that their time scale was far more reasonable a reason that I wouldn't do that?
No, not really. I mean, like the abolition of all suffering, the prevention of, you know, forcing life into extreme hell, is that, you know, it's not really a fickle sort of idea. It's not something that's going anywhere. And it is something that's been growing globally for the last 3 years and has, you know, shows no signs of stopping or slowing down, right?
Your movement, though, sort of prescribes suffering at some level because you're anti-natalists, correct? Like there is, I know that you absolutely...
We're anti-natalist, yeah.
That's what I said, yeah, sorry. I know that you place zero value on pleasure side of scale. There is zero value on pleasure, so there's no amount of pleasure.
Pleasure has value, but in relation to
there's no amount of value in pleasure that would offset any suffering. Correct? Is that a fair assessment?
Well, no, because that's like saying, you know, a billionaire would rather die than get a stubbed toe. That would obviously be wrong.
No, I'm asking you in your calculus. There's no amount of pleasure that will offset suffering. So the people who come on here and say, like, what about all the good things in life? You're like, well, none of that matters.
Yeah, there's let me put it this way then. There's no amount of pleasure that can offset the worst things that can happen, right? So it's not, let's not just say suffering in general, right? Let's say the worst suffering, because that's always going to happen until we abolish suffering.
But there is an amount of utility to suffering, as long as the utility is humans being pulled into the hell that you're talking about to further extinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not that you're, and to be like, yeah, that's, I mean, to me, that doesn't square, but you're like, yeah, that's fine. It's a
Well,
rounding
Jarrett,
error.
would you send someone to hell to, save 10 people from hell?
Would I send someone to hell to save 10 people from hell? I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird trolley problem.
All right. Would you send one person to hell to save 1 billion people from hell?
Does that person have my consent to send them to hell? No. I don't know if I would.
You would be able to sleep at night thinking, yeah, there's 1 billion people being tortured in hell right now. I did the right thing. You really think that makes sense?
Is this a deist hell and these people deserved it for some reason, or is this
it's
a natural hell?
It's Earth hell.
Yeah. I mean, I guess yeah. If that's how you're going to frame it, then
right. So yes,
yeah,
obviously, it makes sense to choose the lesser of two evils. Right?
So there's a practicality in suffering.
Choosing the greater of two evils, that's obviously wrong.
Okay. I mean, I guess okay. I wonder. I think the slave. Yeah, when you bring up the slave thing a lot, I think, but in my mind, it's like, well, yeah, but you're a slave. You're a plantation owner who's an anti-abolitionist slave owner. Who is keeping a plantation alive in order for as long as it takes and breeding slaves as long as it takes to abolish slavery.
If you've got a better solution, I'd love to hear it.
I don't think I do. I think I'm just going to continue trying to reduce suffering because that's what's practical to me right now. I don't have a bunch of time to be on TikTok. That said, I like watching you. All right, Angel Baby. I appreciate the time.
All right. Pleasure to have you on, Jarrett.
Have a good one.
It went better than expected, so maybe I won't be so afraid of bringing you on next time. All right, we have probably one last guest, I think. Let's have a look. No, they've gone as well. Okay, so we have no one in the queue, and it's getting to my girlfriend time. So if anyone wants to join, now's your chance before the stream goes quiet for the day. I'll be streaming tomorrow probably, but I've already done 2 or 3 hours today. So if you really want to join the stage and ask me some questions, now's your time. Okay, we've got someone coming on. Let's bring on Maeve. Maeve joining us now. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
Fine.
Great. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, how do you think we ought to go about forcefully causing total extinction?
So we have to do it in an organized way. We can't just do individual random acts of, violence or anything silly like that. We have to grow the movement until we have enough people to change the world, take over the world. Right now it's being run by, Trump and, dictators. So it does need changing anyway. And so, yeah, we have to take over the world and then carry out animal extinction with euthanasia while removing our dependence on animals so that, we can get rid of them without any consequences. Then we should start trying to research how life develops on planets and how we can prevent it so that we can prevent it from happening again on Earth. And then we can try and prevent it from happening on other planets. So it's about doing as much as we can to prevent suffering, to provide safety from suffering. If we can only do Earth, then so be it. But we should see if we can do more. And ideally, we would have a universe with no life and no possibility of life ever happening ever again, and no possibility of suffering.
What do you take suffering to be?
Experiences that sentient life would want to avoid.
Okay, so all cases of a sentient life wanting to avoid an experience of some kind is going to be suffering?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. And you think that because of these negative experiences that some people have, we should kill them all, right?
No, it's more about making sure that no life is forced into this world without consent, into a body that it didn't ask for, danger that it didn't ask for, a life that it never asked for, and to then be put in extreme danger. So, you know, most life being born in this world will be tortured to death as a baby, eaten alive in the first few days in nature. So, you know, you wouldn't want that. Nobody should have to experience that. And yeah, you know, we probably do have to euthanize the animals and the humans to have total extinction. But it's going to prevent billions of years of suffering and provide ultimate safety.
I don't think that there is a reason for some of the suffering that occurs. I can understand like major suffering, but obviously I don't think that everyone pursuing the opposite of a negative experience is going to be suffering. Like there are people who, you know, maybe have intuitions that they should do something that's bad. And when they avoid doing this, I wouldn't say that they're suffering. I don't know how you would think this would be justified.
Well, the thing is, what's not justified is trapping humans and animals into lives of extreme hell. So nothing justifies that, and nothing can, you know, really justify not providing safety from that. So yeah, total extinction is justified.
I understand the anti-natalist intuitions. I get that. I just don't think that killing sentient life is the way to go about that. I think, if anything, we should probably...
Why? Explain why.
Why what part?
You know, I interrupted you as you were talking, saying you don't think that extinction is the right way to do it. Why not?
I didn't say I don't think extinction is the right way to do it. I just said I don't think killing people is the right way to do it. I mean, I can imagine the suffering.
So how are you going to get extinction without doing that?
I think that the suffering people would go through knowing that they're going to be killed to avoid further suffering is probably very immense, right?
Yeah, but it's, well, probably not, no. Like, firstly, you know, it's going to provide immediate safety from suffering, safety from a bad life, and safety from a worse death as well. You know, most deaths would be you'd be better off with euthanasia compared to most deaths in this world. And even if it did cause some suffering, it would still be better than the suffering it prevents, right? We have to choose the lesser of two evils, and billions of years of more suffering, that is the greater of the two evils. So we shouldn't do that. Do you have
some kind of calculus you're using to determine that this is the best way to avoid suffering? Like, are you utilitarian?
Yeah, so it's very simple. Only non-existence can provide 100% safety from a life of hell, basically. So nobody deserves to be forced into danger of a life of hell or forced into a life of hell. So non-existence and total extinction is the only way to guarantee that. If you've still got life running around, it's going to reproduce, it's going to cause suffering for billions of more years. So the extinction has to be total. Otherwise, the abolition of suffering won't be total.
Okay. Like, again, I just think the root of this is, it seems like you don't think there's any experience worthy of suffering. I don't understand.
Well, can you name one? Can you name an experience that would make up for a child being abused to death?
Why specifically that? Like I said, I think there are extreme cases of suffering that are unjustifiable.
That's what happens. So,
right?
That's
but
what
in the typical cases, right, it doesn't seem
Maeve,
to be that extreme.
Maeve, you're not listening. That will keep happening. That will keep happening, right? So that definitely has to happen. So can you name an experience that justifies that?
I don't care about the extreme cases, as I said earlier.
Well, then you're a fucking moron, aren't you?
Cases.
You're a moron. You don't care about suffering and extreme suffering, right? So a child is getting tortured in front of you. You say, I don't care. Someone else wants an apple. I've got to go and get them an apple. You're an idiot. Simple as that. Okay, thanks for joining us, everyone. That's good for today. I'll be streaming tomorrow. If you want to speak to me and the rest of the team at the movement, join us on Discord or on WhatsApp. The links are at the bottom of the page on the website. There's a clickable link and button to the website on my TikTok profile, so you don't even have to type it in. You can just click on my profile, click on the website, read about us, and consider joining the movement, doing activism with us to work towards abolishing all suffering. It's not going to happen by itself. And what's the alternative? The alternative is to do nothing about all of this terrible suffering, like that moron, and saying, let's just let the babies suffer, let the children suffer. So, the vast majority of the planet is wild animals being tortured to death as babies in the worst ways, right? You wouldn't want to be born as an animal in nature that's starving, it's freezing to death, it's got parasites and diseases. You're a baby, you watch your family get eaten alive, and then you get eaten alive. Nobody should have to experience that. You wouldn't want to experience that, to be trapped in that, to be forced to be eaten alive, the horrific pain and fear of it. That is what happens to most life born on this planet. It's not acceptable, and that will never change. Conditions for wild animals have never improved, not even once in all of history, and they never will. Right? What are you going to do? Start tampering with the ecosystem and, let's make this animal happier. Suddenly, the entire balance is all completely fucked up. Okay? So it's not a realistic thing. And you're never going to have total safety for animals and humans without extinction. It's just never going to happen. You would absolutely have to create heaven. Okay? So we shouldn't keep forcing life to exist in unsafe conditions. Unless you have effectively heaven, then it is unsafe, and the unlucky ones will be tortured horrifically. They don't deserve that. No one deserves that. That's happening en masse. Over 99% of animals born in nature will be tortured horrifically, and that will never change, okay? It will never get better. And most people are saying we shouldn't change it and that we should just let it happen and that we shouldn't interfere with nature, that it's beautiful and all of that bullshit, okay? So the idea that all of this suffering in nature is ever going to suddenly fucking disappear, it's a fantasy, it's bullshit, okay? Get your thinking cap on straight, because it's a completely moronic thing to think that there's any alternative to extinction. Wild animals will never see their conditions improve. Most people don't want their conditions to improve. So how the fuck are their conditions ever going to improve? They're not, right? Most people are saying, don't interfere, let them suffer, it's beautiful, okay? So the vast majority of the population enjoys animal suffering, and they will keep it going because they enjoy it and find it beautiful. We have to fight for the abolition of this. There's no one out there doing activism for improving animal conditions in nature. There's fucking nobody doing it, okay? And there's never going to be anyone doing it. Firstly, because no one wants to help these animals. And secondly, because there is no realistic way, no serious or non-completely moronic way to suggest providing 100% safety for 100% of these animals without extinction. So they will keep being tortured horrifically, starving to death, being tortured by parasites, being chased by murderous animals all day, every day, until they get caught and get eaten alive, right? You wouldn't want to experience this. Your mother wouldn't want to experience that. Nobody, these are children experiencing this, okay? So they shouldn't be forced into this meat grinder ever again, anymore. No one should ever be in it. And saying that we could reduce it a little bit, fuck off, right? You might maybe improve conditions for 0.1% if you're lucky, which again, no one's doing that, and there's not even a realistic way of ever even improving a tiny amount of conditions for a tiny amount of animals, okay? How are you going to do it? You can't prevent every last natural disaster, every last earthquake. You can't cure every single disease for every single species. You can't prevent predation, which is the main way that nature works, right? Animals eating each other. You can't prevent every single injury that's ever going to happen. You can't prevent brain damage. You can't prevent chronic pain, again, for every single different species, right? So what are we going to commit our resources to? Extinction and preventing life from being forced to exist into dangerous conditions and suffering terribly? Or should we allow all of that suffering and try to make magic instead? What's more realistic? What's more ethical? What's more practical? It's working towards a realistic solution and not a completely bullshit solution, which is let's create magic. Okay? Now, some people say, James, this magic thing is not right. We can't. No. There is no way to provide a guarantee of safety for life without extinction. You would need magic, okay? You absolutely need omnipotence and omniscience to say there is a 100% chance this life is going to be okay. 100%, okay? So, in this world where crazy stuff can happen, you've got cosmic rays, you've got things that we don't even understand about science and physics. The idea that any of us are safe is a joke. We could all get trapped in the life of hell tomorrow. You just have to get hit by a car, paralyzed with chronic pain, and you're fucked, basically. So you wouldn't want that, and yet we're all in danger of that, and we're putting others into danger of it. And there's absolutely nothing that makes up for this suffering. Like that complete idiot that came on last, right? Saying, I don't care about children facing extreme suffering, right? That's a complete idiot that would say that. And only a complete idiot, right? And again, you also have to be an idiot to say that it's only a tiny minority when actually over 99% of animals are being tortured to death. And even if it were a minority, you can still go and fuck yourself if you're saying we should ignore them and let them suffer. Even one sufferer is too many. Suffering has literally infinite value over pleasure, okay? Think about it this way. If there's two people playing football and they have to stop playing football to help one child, yeah, they should do it, right? But, okay, bad example. A better example would be that there's no amount of ice cream you can lick and eat which will make up for a child being tortured to death, right? There's no amount of pleasure. There is no balance. There's no trade-off, no exchange rate where, 5 children got raped to death today. We'll have to go for a takeaway to balance it out. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. It will never work like that. There is no exchange rate on how much suffering we can accept for pleasure, right? There is no exchange rate because it's zero. There is zero child abuse that we can accept for pleasure. Zero. So there's never going to be an amount where that changes of, 3 children got molested to death, but, 4 had an average life, so it's okay. No, it never, ever adds up. And we also don't need life suffering anyway. So you have people that are completely obsessed with life continuing for no reason, right? Doesn't have to be themselves, doesn't have to be their own family. They don't, it's just an obsession with life continuing. Doesn't matter when, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter who. They just have this unhealthy obsession that somewhere life has to exist. For no reason, right? Completely illogical, no logical basis on it. They have this obsession. So for these idiots, even they are still supported by extinctionism, okay? So let's say we have total extinction, we have AI and robots that are the only things left. They can make that decision. They can do the science and say, right, we've discovered heaven technology, life can finally be safe, 100% certainty. The robots can bring life back, right? We're talking about thousands of years in the future. It's definitely possible. You have to be incredibly stupid to think that, our technology is never going to improve in the future and that we're stuck with what we have today. We've seen that today on the stream. People saying, but we can't reach the bottom of the ocean. You fucking idiot, we have billions of years to do it, okay? We're not even trying yet. So when we start trying and we have all the time in the world to do it, that's a hell of a lot better than where we are now, where we're not even trying. So don't compare trying with loads of time to we haven't tried yet. It's stupid. So all these people say, no, that's impossible. Oh, you'll never do it. It's bullshit. These are stupid people. These are the same people that say that We can actually solve all suffering with magic, and we can create heaven, right? So these are the same people saying, oh, euthanizing animals is impossible. Tell you what is possible, though, creating magic where we literally snap our fingers and rapture them up into heaven. Now, are people advocating for less than that and improving conditions? But that's still allowing suffering. It's still a completely immoral stance. So as I was saying about how there's no exchange rate that says, this amount of children being abused, we just need this amount of pizza to make up for it, right? There's no sort of good system or responsible system that doesn't have a zero tolerance policy on suffering. There's no such thing as a 99% zero tolerance policy on suffering. You're still going to allow infinite suffering at the end of the day. If you're risking suffering and you're risking putting children into unlimited danger, then there's no limit to how much suffering, the severity of the suffering that they can face. So it's all or nothing, right? Children deserve complete safety. And it is all or nothing. There's no partial safety that we should give to children. It should be total. All right, I was going to bring someone on, but they left the queue. So I'm probably going to call it for there unless someone joins right now. This is your last chance to join before I end the stream. In the meantime, follow my channel, check out my videos, and join the movement. Do activism with us. We have to make videos, we have to, explain that there is a solution, total extinction, that we can and should abolish all suffering, and we have to get people to join us, to join the movement and help us grow the movement. That's the only solution. It's the only way it's going to work. We have to get enough people on board, supporting us, doing activism with us until we can actually change the world. The world needs changing anyway. It's being run by dictators, like idiots like Trump. So it needs doing anyway, right? We need a movement to change the world, to fix the world. That's what we are. That's what we're doing. We have the ultimate ethics, the ultimate morality, whereas everyone else is saying, I don't care about children being abused. I don't care about extreme abuse like that last idiot. So yeah, if you want to talk to me, message me on TikTok or come onto the Discord, come into the WhatsApp group. The links are at the bottom of the website, and talk to me and the rest of the movement. There's lots of us. I didn't even start this movement. I'm just one of many. Maybe I'm one of the better ones, sure, but there's lots of us. You can come and meet all of us, and I will see you all on the next stream.